It's great. It's great. You know, this is our field that's ballooning into much more than just a cult attraction, which is really how everyone addressed it in the beginning. Many people thought that anime was sort of this bizarre, cultish thing that was gonna come and go in fashion, and I think we're proving that it's just really getting its teeth and it's here to stay, and it's only getting bigger all the time. So it's very exciting to be a part of that.
And I'll tell you, I was surprised. I mean, I didn't realize how big this the film had gotten. And over the years, you know, in casual conversation, I'd mentioned this title, and it just amazed me how many people just, goodness, you Ninja Scroll. You know, that's as big as The Matrix. Really? I mean, as recently as just a week or two ago, speaking to a few producers that I know that are in the animation field, not necessarily anime, but like for Warner Brothers, people like that who came out and said, "You did that film?" God, you know, they'd had it for years and it's one of their favorites. So I mean, it's a nice feeling to know that people really appreciated what we did. No, I had done a few things prior to that.
Yeah, I had already been working on Robotech, and I think I had even done Technoman by then, and I was working on a few other releases that were games. I was doing several titles by then.
I do a lot of actual looping for feature films as well on TV, and that's kind of where this all started. I came sort of from that venue to this. Well, I'll tell you that the biggest difference for me was working on this film for the first time, and like I said, coming from the looping end of it, where you get beeps prior to you beginning speaking, and they didn't have those on this film. And you're talking to Wendy about it as well. It was difficult. It was difficult, you know, sort of dubbing to time code and trying to look at the time code and look at your script and watch the film at the same time. I mean, it was really difficult. But once they finally got that fixed, it's become a lot easier. So this film was a tough one.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It was kind of back in the day when we did guerrilla dubbing. You know,
Right.
we just kind of chased the picture, and
Right.
we have, for those of you that don't know, the system works in a way that we have time code, and the time code's printed on the copy, the work print that we're working with, and then the time code correlates to the dialogue in the script. And normally the way we work now, the big difference is that you get a series of beeps in rhythm, and on the imaginary fourth beep is when you begin speaking. But the way we were working at that time was really just grabbing time code and trying to catch it and chase it, and it became quite a task. You had to be so alert and so on top of it, and it's sort of like, you know, okay, and now you have to stand on one foot and pat your tummy, and you know, it's tricky, but I think it also keeps you very focused. You have to really focus in to get that kind of a performance.
Even more than when the beeps are there, I think.
I think so.
Because you just, if you blink, you're gone, and it's another take. And after spending hours and hours in the booth that we both worked in individually, doing this film, we didn't want to spend any more time in there than we had to, I think. I mean, it's a tiny, tiny room. It's like a closet. And so retakes were not, you just didn't want to have to deal with that if you didn't have to.
And you know, you're always personally challenged to get the best take you can in as few takes as possible.
Absolutely.
You know, you really want to, you try to deliver exactly what the director needs. You know, so you really put your heart into that.
Well, I think it's sort of a combination. Very often we have to listen to the Japanese and see how the Japanese performer, as obviously I don't speak Japanese, but you can get an idea from the English translation, and try to sort of work that in with their performance, because they always, at least from my experience, they always seem to be very much in tune to tying it as closely as the Japanese performance was. So I think it's a combination of that, and then the direction that the director's giving as well.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I've often heard this question come up, and I always feel like I'm going to disappoint people when I tell them the bare truth, which is your preparation is, you know, getting in the car and driving to the appointment, to the session, you know. But there is something to sort of remembering characters, remembering their voices, the cadence in which they speak, taking the direction well, asking the right questions, meaning just asking questions if you have them, and making sure that everything's cleared up in your mind as to the choices the character would make, and previewing the Japanese and honoring the intent of the performance, not necessarily duplicating the performance. But I like to think that I'm still inventing something with each character that I get to develop, rather than just parroting or, mocking, which is the worst. It's just like, say it like this, then it takes out the creativity for me. The process of inventing it and discovering it as you go is kind of the joy and the pleasure of doing it, and the challenge.
It's sort of whatever comes our way, I think.
I think so.
To be honest with you.
Actors, like a lot of diversity. We like to be able to slip into all different kinds of identities. Personally, the more diverse my characters are, the wider range of characters that I'm working on, the more interesting it is for me. Okay, who am I today? Okay, I'm that crazy teacher. Oh no,
Right.
now I'm that vixen. Oh no, I'm the kid. Oh no, I'm the little boy. That's what's interesting, being able to change it up a lot. So yeah, I think I personally love comedy. I just love the physicalness of, adding all the nuances to the pratfalls, and, just the wackiness, and of course the timing, which is really something that you kind of have or don't, and you can get better at it if you do have comedy timing, good timing in comedy. But I also really like the super dramatic stuff. So it's fun. I think the more extreme the characters are sometimes is what's, juiciest,
When, as a man with a sort of a bigger voice, I tend to not get as many opportunities as Wendy, I think, for the comedy. Occasionally, but I end up playing more the bigger, the tougher, the stronger guys. And that was what, in a way, was fun about Ninja Scroll, because this was the hero, and he kind of had a bit of a flip way about him, and that was really a lot of fun to do, because it's something I don't necessarily get the opportunity to do that often.
You're too busy being the heavy.
I'm the heavy one.
That's okay. We need them.
And it's the same thing. And we both work on camera as well in live action, and I tend to get a lot of those parts. And so to be able to play the good guy was really a lot of fun. So I enjoyed that.
That's nice. It's different in every state, from what I hear, how we actually work, but it's quite set in Southern California, the way that we work, and we really have very little preparation, in all honesty.
Right. It's not like we don't get the script a week in advance. We don't, generally, either if it's an audition, so you may see the sides ahead of time, or if you just called and someone offers you a part, you get those sides the day you show up. And so you basically have to work with it immediately, and there's not that much preparation time. And I think maybe that's why certain people get to work more than others,
That's
because
true.
they know that we can come in and give them what they want immediately without that prep.
That's very true. They know that you're going to deliver.
Right.
And you get a reputation for that. I think in many ways it's our job to come in as a clean slate and be ready for anything, and be prepared for a wide, extreme experience of emotions. I think when you really start feeling like you have to prepare for that passage of dialogue that's challenging or extremely emotional, or that has a lot of tears and wide dynamics, it's when you're doing the retakes. That's when you have to sort of pace yourself to keep your energy up, I think. But we don't really know what we're facing often as actors when we go into record. Most of the time we have no idea, and sometimes it's best, because any preconceived notion you might have, or any way you may have rehearsed it or learned it in your mind, is more difficult to undo than to create it on the spot and have it be fresh, and to be in a position where the director can mold your performance and you just allow them.
Did you know, did you just get this job, or did you audition for this job?
Which one?
This one, Ninja Scroll.
I actually was cast for the part. I didn't audition for it either.
And neither did I. So both of us basically came in that day and went at it. And we must have done something right, because you're asking us these questions today, and the film has been a big hit. So That's sort of the proof is in the pudding.
We know a lot of that is due to the art itself. It's always the beginning, it's the first and last word about everything that we're doing in anime. It's the art form itself that sells and carries and gives us the opportunity to have a great performance. So we're very well aware of that,
Right.
and I often feel very humbled by the amazing high art form that we're involved in. Some of it is just incredible stuff. It's great.
The interesting thing is Wendy and I had never met each other before,
This is our
right this
first
moment.
time to meet each other.
Yes, it is.
That's right.
I mean, we knew our names, had probably heard our names mentioned, over the years, but I'd never met Wendy. And as a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that when I did this, I don't know that Wendy had even recorded hers yet. I don't remember. I don't think so. So I had never even heard her. I was listening to the Japanese actress when I was dubbing. Years go by, and honest to goodness, I turn my TV on, and I've got all this gear, so it takes a while for it to all fire up. Don't even remember what station I'm on, what channel I'm on. I walk off into the kitchen, and all of a sudden, I hear my voice. And I didn't recognize what it was, and I walked in, and Ninja Scroll was on the satellite then. That's honestly. And I walked in and I said, wait a minute, I did that. And that's when I first saw it. This one day, all of a sudden this thing came on my screen. I'll be darned.
That's the best.
It was great. It was really pretty
yeah.
fun. I got on the phone, started making phone calls, said, hey, turn this thing on. I'm in that. So it was fun.
Because I think that the fact that Spirited Away won an Oscar
Just gonna
the
say the same
second
thing.
year there was a category for animation is a hallmark for our industry. And I feel that, again, we're at the beginning of a new phase of anime's influence and involvement in the larger title of animation. I think it's really exciting, and I think it's having a huge influence.
Becoming more mainstream
Definitely.
with an Oscars.
It's more accessible now. You can actually see titles in most of the chains that sell videos, and you can rent some of these things, and you don't have to purchase everything anymore. I think it's making a big difference on that level. But it's the art form, I think. I think it's the Japanese art form of storytelling is a much more open, psychological, rather, I just think it's a more thinking way of storytelling than we're used to in the Western perspective, and I think that's having a huge influence in animation and really in storytelling in the West. I think that's very exciting.
Everything she just said and more. Well, and to reiterate about Spirited Away winning an Oscar, and I think that will lead to a whole lot more of it becoming more mainstream and being available, say, for rental in stores, where kids and parents will see more of it and say, well, wait a minute, that won an Academy Award, pick that up, and if they like it, move down the road and pick up a Ninja Scroll or something else like that. And I think
Age appropriate, of course.
Oh, yes. Yes, this parents for this title.
And I like that too. I like that anime has a category that's intelligent enough and challenging enough for adults to be
Right.
hooked and to appreciate. And I wanted to just address, you said, where do we see ourselves in this? And I think there's a wonderful place for voice actors in titles to come. I'm seeing it more and more. And since we've all kind of begun to recover from the 9/11 tragedies, work is coming back in a larger quantity to the States. It was leaving for some time, and so it's very good to
Right.
see it coming back to us. Believe it or not, not every actor wants to be a director, but there's a big part of that in a lot of us.
I've never directed animation, but I've directed ADR sessions for live action, so that sort of thing. But
As Dean said earlier, we both do a lot of dubbing for films, and so often you're in a position where you're wrangling the voice actors, is what we call it, for working on films. And it's quite an art, and it's a very physical art for that kind of dubbing. We're up and moving and physicalizing and walking, and we do passes which we call donuts. We
Right.
walk in a circle past the microphone, so you hear perspective and you get nuances with the actor's voices placed in different positions in the soundstage. So that is actually a pretty tricky art form. People often don't know what it is, the group voices behind the scenes or that support the scene that you're focusing on, and you've got a large group of people in the background, and that's us building those voices.
But they know it if it's not there.
That's for sure.
And it's very obvious when it's not there, and it adds so much to the film and saves some films, I think.
I agree. Yeah, it really builds the atmosphere and nuance.
Mm-hmm.
But as you know, yes, I do direct a lot of anime titles, and it's something that I definitely have pursued. And I got into directing anime really when I didn't know of any other women doing it. And now there's several other women that are behind the scenes too. It's pretty wonderful on that level. But it was something I was doing. I was directing a lot of theater, and I had a children's theater company, and I had been a choreographer and been doing a lot of staging throughout my life and throughout my career. So it translated well for me to get involved as a director with anime.
Just, it's been a pleasure being here, and I hope you folks that are big fans of this enjoy it and enjoyed us.
Yay! Happy, is it our 10-year anniversary?
It's a happy 10-year anniversary.
Right on, enjoy! Mwah.